Hello, it's Maureen again. Now we'll listen to Yvonne Carrera. Yvonne is a journalist in Kenya. She's winning at it. She's been working in the print media for the longest time. Recently, she moved with TV production where she's an editor and she's producing content that is inspiring people in Kenya. Good evening, Yvonne.
Good evening, Maureen. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you. Please tell us who is Yvonne and what inspired you to venture into journalism?
Yvonne is a mother of two. She's an award-winning journalist, recognized all over East Africa. I also am passionate about the voice of women in the society. I also love to tell stories that are outside the ordinary stories that we're used to. So that's, in a nutshell, that's who I am.
All right. So, looking back as a young girl growing in the village or in the town, would you say your childhood was did you have gender specific roles that would specifically had made you, look at the world differently, or were you free to choose whatever you wanted to do?
I think my mom growing up had not really defined gender roles because we would still go to take the cows to the fields. Those were roles, defined for boys. But growing up, uh, much of our life was girls until the last born came in when we were older. So we didn't get to define roles. We were all girls growing up, and so all the roles were, divided amongst us. Regardless whether you're a girl or a boy. So there were really no defined roles, and I think our mom was intentional about that because. Looking back at her life, also she grew up among boys and she got to do the things that boys do. So for her, it was I don't think she was doing this thinking about the women roles and the International Women Day. This is her just instilling how she grew up. So just by default, I would say. Yeah.
So now you have grown up knowing that you can do everything that you want. Then you go into the world and you realize, is it still everything that you can do? Is it something that you've been feeling? How is the experience after you growing up and venturing into the world, especially in the media? Can you do anything that you want?
No, it's neither here nor there because sometimes in the media space you get to, especially in the older years, around 10 years ago, you would find the women being given stories of like entertainment, family stories. You're not given hard stuff like business news. And I actually ended up joining the business desk because I wanted to break the bias. We were only two women in the business desk. And you take on those hard jargons, you take on those hard business reports and break them down to very nice feature stories. But people would be intrigued to see you actually winning awards from these stories, yet you're supposed to be doing, they call them soft stories, feature stories. This woman did this and that, and like, going for hard news and hard facts. So it's not it's not an ideal world. You just have to force it to be recognized.
Right. That's good to know. That even as you get into the media industry as a woman, you should realize sometimes you might be given the softer stories, the stories that are not so hard because you're a woman.
Yes.
But you have to have a bigger voice to fight for getting harder stories.
Yes, you do. Because sometimes, even when something happens in the newsroom and you're forced to speak up, when a man speaks up about something that has happened and they're not comfortable with it, you will hear them being told, "Why are you behaving like a woman? Why are you shouting like all these negative things? If you get upset, why are you getting upset like a woman?" Like all the negative attributes have been associated with being woman. If you speak too much about, like, if you're gossipy, you're told you're behaving like a woman. Like all these negative attributes associated to women, it makes us feel like you don't belong. So you have to prove them. You have to keep proving yourself as you rise up the ladder.
Right. That's an interesting
Yeah.
thing to note. So the other question is, are the women represented equally?
say in a media house where you work, are there more women or less women? And when they are working there, are there guidelines to actually take in more women or to at least balance the gender?
I would say where I recently joined, I think there's a balance now, and it's intentional because the managing director is a woman, so she's actually very intentional about growing the women population in the newsroom. And if you're struggling with something, she'll actually just walk with you the journey of making you feel like you belong and helping you get your bearing. So in this newsroom, it's intentional. But having worked elsewhere, I felt there were more men than women. So even when you try to raise your
You're back. Welcome back.
thank you. What shall we say? The
We were
internet
talking
is here.
we were talking about the women representation in the media industry in Kenya, I think.
Yes. So in the, I was saying the previous media houses that I've worked for before, there was not really much representation of women. It was not balanced. There was women in the editorial departments, but they were not in key roles of, where you can form a team and be intentional about being women in the newsroom. So it was difficult to voice our concerns and get understood while at it. So that's what I was trying to say.
At one time, I will tell you my experience. At one time, when I was getting a job with in a man's office, it's in the same company, but now I was joining a team of men. And the first thing that came to my head was like, are they going to ask me to serve tea and coffee? And if they did, how am I going to react to this question? And I don't know if you have ever had a situation where you feel that some people will expect you to do something because you're a woman, and what did you do about it?
Mm. I have not gotten to experience that a bit of you being asked to bring coffee or tea, but there's this small roles clean up here, like before the cleanup gets to the office and there's a mess somewhere, it's expected that you as a woman should fix that. And it's not like it's a written rule, but people will look at you differently if they find you seated next to a mess and you're a woman. You know how Africans are, and you be given the looks. Yes.
It's
So
true.
it's not a written rule, but yeah, there's that feeling that you're expected to do it as a woman.
Right. So you've mentioned that there are some disparities when it comes to women representative in the media representation in the media industry in Kenya. Are there some organizations helping women to feel more comfortable at work? Are there media organizations or any organization that is helping women when they experience some of discrimination or something, something related to work in Kenya?
Yeah, I have seen the Media Council of Kenya trying to bridge the gap and sort of acknowledge the small groups that have been formed by women in the newsroom. We have, when I left my previous employer, we'd already formed an organization called She, Her Standards. She Leads, something like that. She Leads Her Standards, something like that. So it was about the women in the organization, just the organization, and voicing our concern through just one person that we elected as our president. That was also recognized by the Media Council of Kenya, and they were encouraging them to spread across media houses, not just focus on one media house, because the women who are in other media houses were not represented by this organization. But now I'm seeing women in health come up, women in science come up also. So it's something that's coming up, and it's really good because it's giving women that confidence that you're not alone in this field, struggling alone. And if you're struggling with something, someone else understands you and they feel where you're coming from. So I'm seeing it coming up, and it's a really encouraging initiative.
Yeah, that's really encouraging to have an organization that represents the women and pushes them forward to be able
Yeah.
to feel some kind of equality with men as we continue to push these agenda forward. We have Bella from Uganda. She'll be joining us in a few minutes. And as she joins us, Bella is also a journalist from Uganda, so you can also prepare some questions that you would like to ask Bella, Eve, and share some knowledge on the same. So we would
Okay.
like also to know, as a producer, are there stories that you have covered and you felt they touched you? Hi, Bella.
Hi, Bella.
Hi.
So
Hi.
we're just
Shall
asking
I
you.
answer?
Yes, one minute. We're just asking
Okay.
Yvonne some of the experiences she has had as a journalist in Kenya. Have you covered any story that, first of all, shocked you that this could happen in Kenya in this day and age? And true, probably taught you something. Meanwhile, also, Bella, if you could think about such lines, if you have ever seen something like this in your field as well. Yvonne.
Yes, a sad story I did about a month ago of a woman who is really struggling to piece her life together after she separated from her abusive husband, but he followed her and continuously abused her in front of her children. And by abuse, I mean raping her in front of her children and beating her up. He broke her hands. Like this woman, I sat with her, I cried with her. I went to interview her, and of course she's in hiding right now because the man is still hunting for her. So I went to meet her in that hiding place and talked to her. But I even forgot that I had gone there for a story. I just went to console her and just understand her as a woman. And that thing has not left my mind because I kept checking on her even after the show. Of course, Kenyans came together and supported her and gave her money to even start her life afresh. I still feel that part of me was left with this woman, and I'm just wondering why this man is walking scot free. There's no consequences, no justice for this woman, and it's heartbreaking.
That's so sad to hear. Any story that has encouraged you so far that you have done?
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was my recent story I did of a woman who is going beyond and beyond to just listen to the plight of the women. This woman is not just supporting any woman, she is working with deaf moms. You've never thought of how deaf moms go to hospitals and explain, their situation, their conditions, their symptoms. We don't get to think about that. How do deaf moms hear when they're sleeping and they have newborn babies? How do they hear when the babies wake up and they're looking for their mommy? How do they know such things? So this woman came up with an organization called Talking Hands, Listening Eyes. And this organization helps these women raise their children like a normal mom who hears, because most deaf women get children who hear. So by coming in to help these women, she bridges the gap of communication between the child and the mother, and she helps them get essential health services, especially from hospitals that are not equipped to handle deaf moms. So if a woman is in labor and she's not able to understand what's going on with her body or what the doctor is saying, this woman called Judy comes in and helps them. So I celebrated her and I still celebrate her today. She's phenomenal. She
Thank you,
actually won
Yvonne.
an award today. So
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences as a young girl, as a journalist, and we wish you all the best as you pursue your career in the media industry.